Many people will remember that I had a company, and of course when you have a company you're working in the public, right? So all of my businesses were companies, and when you even when you like register a business, it is in the public. Now what that means is that you can't do whatever you want. You really, as much as you think that you have a say in what you're doing, you really don't, right? That's number one, okay? Because you've got, the government says you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do this, you have to do that. And when you look at all of the have-tos that the government give you, they're all about lining the pockets of government agencies and bodies. Now, all of you know, well, if you don't know and you've never seen me before, my name is Victoria Gilbert. I am the founding member of Luminous Hearts, and we have 3 projects. One is Nature's Nectars, Embrace Wellness Holistic Hubs, and of course beautiful Love and Devotion range. Now what we do is all about helping people heal themselves. Love this. DM this woman if you want to go down this path. Absolutely listen. I'm telling you, I will put you in contact with the right people. Do not make the same mistakes that I did. I will tell you now that I started off the PMA journey with a woman who proclaimed to be an accountant, who is not an accountant. She's just a bookkeeper, and who proclaims to do everything in the private, and she doesn't. Okay, it's very easy to find that she does it all in the public. And not only that, proclaims to give back to the community, and guess what? She doesn't. It's all about lining her pockets and making a whole lot of money. And what I've found along the way was that a lot of the things that she was putting into process were actually not correct, because of course I also have a lot of people who understand natural law, international law, Commonwealth law, common law, so many different aspects of law that you have to understand. And of course you all know Alicia, my little spoon, and what is she? She is a lawyer. And so of course it's not hard when you're on a journey and you're allowing people to help you do things. Now, one of the things for me has always been, like, one of my biggest issues has been, like, I used to micromanage everything. Well, in this case, I wish I had. Because I literally spent $7,000 with this woman and was about to spend another $5,000, only to find out that everything that she had done essentially was wrong. So definitely, if you want to go down the right path, be very careful. There are a lot of charlatans out there. There are a lot of people who proclaim to know things and they don't, and the paperwork is not right. There is stuff that is missing, and so therefore what you're getting is not a complete PMA, and therefore you are very much at the whim of the law, and in the public eye. So be very, very careful who you trust. Do not be like me. Do not get taken for a fool. I literally, and I've watched this same woman. I've had other people who are like, oh, I've been doing it with, and I'm like, take it from me. You've already spent that much money. Great. Don't spend any more. You spent the first, do not do the next section. I'm telling you, go and see go and do it with the people that I have gone and chosen to do my PMA with. And if you really want to know, contact me. I can tell you the whole sordid story. However, back on track, the reason that I wanted a PMA was because, first of all, I give away medicine, right? Medicine. Why medicine, not medicine? Because medicine is what the pharmaceutical companies, both, by the way, these words are trademarked, right? So anything like, even words like arthritis, cancer, they are all trademarked words to the pharmaceutical industry. And so what happens is there's this mafia for the pharmaceutical companies and the government called the TGA. Now, the TGA are not a government body. They are essentially the mob, and all they care about is protecting the money that the government and the pharmaceutical companies make by creating all these bullshit laws about what you can say and can't do and what is safe and what's unsafe. Well, we saw what they did during COVID. The TGA approved all of the medicines that the pharmaceutical companies were saying that COVID, would protect you from COVID, when we know what they were doing was approving medicines to keep you sick. So I make medicine. I make plant medicine, right? And my plant medicine works. In 2020, I was approached by Medical Pharma in Australia to sell my company and to basically get paid a lot of money, but I would not be allowed to make medicine. I was making medicine for my father. I was not allowed to be making medicine anymore, right? Because they would turn it into medicine. They would actually change my recipe. So what I thought they were saying to me is like that they wanted to come and they were going to invest all of this money so that I could have a much bigger space to create on a much bigger level for them. That's not what they wanted. What they wanted to do is what they do with every little CBD company or plant therapy company or herbal company, that they get into their realm and they fill it full of shit so that it doesn't work the same way, so that they keep you at a level of sick. Now, for me, that wasn't an option. My dad had been keeping my dad alive and out of pain for 10 years and continue to do so. We're now at 15 years this year. And we will be going into the 16th year as of July. So that, you cannot put a price on the life of my dad. Then I had all the clients who I was already, good morning, Stephen. There was already other clients who, when they had come to us, were literally on their, would weeks, right? We're talking about who were in such a bad place. They couldn't eat, they couldn't speak, they were, had no control of their bowel movements, etc., etc. And we sent free medicine in the hope, right? We sent free medicine in the hope that they would just not be in pain. And a week later, we're getting phone calls from somebody who could not even speak, let alone eat, calling us angels. How, if you have a soul at all, right? Or if you actually care about other people, do you turn around and stop creating something that you know is saving lives, right? Now, for me, I can't. I just couldn't do it. And they just kept hounding me. You're doing this wrong. You're doing this wrong. Your social media this, your social media that, da-da-da, blah, blah, blah. So what did that mean? Eventually, it took them about 7 goes to get at us over, 4 years? No, 3 years. Just kept coming and coming and coming and threatening and threatening and threatening. In the end, I was like, that's it, I'm done. And $66,000 just gone. $66,000, which was the money to be able to purchase more crude, to make more medicine, and to keep giving stuff to people for free and helping those who could afford to take their health into their own hands, and keep doing events and all of those things. So we went from having money that was creating an abundance to keep giving back, that was all taken, right? So this is what doing things in the public leaves you open to. Now, the other thing is your sweat equity, right? So the sweat equity, the work that you do to create money, that's your sweat equity. Now, sweat equity costs, right? That's your time, it's your health. And the reality of it is, governments come and they like, oh, you're paying yourself a wage, great, we're gonna take half of that. Now, if you go down and you have a look, taxes are actually voluntary. Nobody tells you that. Because when you're 14, you're programmed to go and fill out a box to give you a tax file number saying that for taxation purposes, you are a citizen of Australia. Now, if you actually have a look at Australia and look at the UPA, so like every country has like I suppose like a postcode, right? Like a code. So our one lands us on Norfolk Island. Now, I remember when I went to Norfolk Island, actually, and even before that, a family friend was a hairdresser, and she would go and work on Norfolk Island for 9 months and come home for holidays for 3 months of the year. Why? None of her money being on the island was actually taxed, because for taxation purposes, she was residing on Norfolk Island. But Norfolk Island is actually part of Australia. So Norfolk Island is like the Cayman Islands of Australia. So everybody that is out there paying tax, income tax, paying all of these, insurances, imagine like having a business where you're paying $60,000 in insurance every single year. Now, if you saved that $60,000 into an emergency fund for your workers, guess what? You're going to have the money if something goes wrong to be able to support them. So having a PMA allows you to decide how you are going to give back, what you are going to do with the income that comes in. You pay your working volunteers, you pay them a sustenance instead of an income. Right? And that money is, that money allows them to live, number one. Number two, unlike the fake charities that are out there that are run by a lot of these big churches and corporations, right? They're not really charities. There is some big fat cat CEO earning hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Like, we're talking like $500,000 to run these charities. So that $500,000 has got to come from somewhere, right? And all of the people up there in the board of directors, they've all got to get money from somewhere. So that comes out of every dollar that you're paying into these charities. So, for example, breast cancer, diabetes, prostate cancer, ovarian cancer, Wildlife Fund, the Wilderness Association, all of these charities. Do you know that only 8 cents in the dollar is all that they have to actually hand over? Right? Because it's how rich people funnel their money. This is how rich people funnel their money. Everything goes into trust. Everything is done in a way that, and we wonder why the rich don't pay any taxes. This is why, right? So if you want to start doing things the way that the rich do and actually make a difference in the world, then this is the way that you want to do it, right? And create your own sovereignty and your own ability to have more control over your own life and your own well-being. Because there is nothing worse than knowing that all of the money that you are making and giving to the government, you could actually be funneling back into your community. Now, how many of you sit there and you pay taxes and you pay, you know, think about, we pay for insurance and rego on the cars, and we pay for, oh my God, so many things. Yet, if you actually all banded together and went, we're not doing this anymore, and shut down these big corporations and shut down these unjust governments that just keep raising taxes. Remember, every time you buy, so you're paying income tax, right? You pay income tax, you pay rates, you pay stratas. These are all fees that eventually get funneled back to one government body or another. Why? To pay the people in government. How much of that money actually comes back to working on the roads? How many times do you see council workers just sitting on the side of the road doing nothing? People are getting paid to do not very much, and yet there's potholes all over the road. Or better still, they have private contractors that they hire. So the money's not even going into people working for the government and civil servants, because of course they're not civil servants anymore, right? So understand that if you want to have control of how you can do good into your community, then the PMA, Private Members Association, a non-governmental private members association, is the way to go. Now, it's really interesting when you have people who are really like very much programmed into the system. Now, I watched from the inside the absolute rorts that would go on from behind jail walls. It was very obvious that jails would receive funding from pharmaceutical companies, because the way in which they would all of a sudden have everybody on one medication and then the next and then the next. So I've had these little glimpses and didn't really realize why I needed to even be seeing this stuff, right? Because at the time, all you think about is how hardly done by you are, and how the world is so unfair. And, you know, what did I do? Did I run over a China man in a past life? Because that's what we're all told to believe, that everything is a curse, which is not the case. Sorry, guys, I have a real thing about hair. It's one of my little idiosyncrasies. And anyway, I realised when all the shit went down with the TGA, I needed to get out of the public and get into the private so that I could do more for my local community. Now, every few months, because I mean, a lot of people, now it costs $1 to be a part of our membership, $1 that we give back to the local homeless shelter, right? So every few months we get, we end up with around about 400 members, and then I send off a check to the local homeless shelter, and then $1 from every product essentially ends up back in local charities. So we've just supported another 2 charities most recently for fundraising for local families. We definitely do all of the local schools and surf clubs. However, after what I witnessed on the weekend, I don't know that I want to be supporting, and I know there's going to be a lot of parents that are going to go, what? The local surf clubs, because their main sponsor are Freemasons. Now, all of you parents out there, you need to do some research on Freemasonry and where Freemasonry goes back to, and how involved in all of the shit that goes on in the world Freemasons literally are involved. It is so, so we will just do more of the schools, more of the local schools, and more local fundraising going directly to families, because at least that way I know exactly where the money is going. I go around to little cafes and I buy 10 coffees here and 10 coffees there, and you know, 10 coffees over there and leave these little Boss V movement cards, right? Now, that's giving back to people. For some people, it really makes their day. For some people, it actually is what changes the trajectory of their day. And I've witnessed that one day when I actually had a lady tell me that the coffee that she had received, because I happened to be sitting there having my breakfast, you know, more often than not, I didn't actually ever get to see who got the free coffees. But what happened was I was sitting there, and she had obviously asked them who gave me this, like, where did this come from? And they said, oh, actually the lady's still here, she's having breakfast. And she came over to me, your coffee saved my life. So believe it or not, when you impact your local community, you impact your community more than you can possibly imagine. Now, abundance is amazing. There is this great thing about having abundance. However, most people who are very abundant, who aren't elites or mass corporations, you know, we're talking about multi-millionaire and billionaires, they're not. You're literally just giving all your money over to governments who do nothing with that money, that you don't see impact lives. And they are always digging out to get more and more and more. So the more people that become PMAs, now the butcher that I get my meat from is a PMA, right? Because they're a quiet little private farm and they don't inject their animals with poisons that end up in the bloodstream that we end up eating, right? Because they have got integrity. Most people who are running PMAs are doing it from a place of integrity, not about keeping all of the money to themselves. Anybody who knows me will tell you, and that they've seen what they've seen, and I don't have to talk about it, right? The reality of it is, as a PMA, we want to make a difference in the world, and it is huge to be able to do that and be a part of that. Now, being in a PMA space allows me to ensure that nobody but me can mess with what we are delivering to our members. Now, one particular story which you have heard me speak about several times is beautiful Peter Fielding from down in Tasmania. Peter is my parents' age. His carer was the one who rang me on the 19th of December in 2019. And Peter couldn't eat or speak. He literally couldn't do anything. Peter was on his way to the other side. We sent a bottle of medicine. We didn't even know whether or not this man would survive. This year, on the 19th of December 2025, it will be 6 years of servicing this man who now sends other people to us, and who also, now pays for his medicine to pay it forward for others, because of course he's received life back. I have clients who have spoken to me about the damage done through surgeries, who come and receive this medicine and their lives are completely changed because the medicine that they were receiving before was keeping them sick and in pain, and their quality of life was shit. And then they come and they find out about our medicine and our beautiful medicine and the intention in which we infuse our medicine, the codes of healing and love that go into our medicine, give people their lives back. And there is no one that is going to stop me from allowing people to see that they can heal themselves. I'm not the healer, right? The plant and your body work together to heal you. There's nothing I detest more than people who proclaim to be a healer, because we are not healers, we are conduits. We are crystal clear conduits for the universal energies and frequencies that are around us, and we just have the ability to magnify that so that the people who are receiving it can move into their self-healing. Even, you speak to my medicine man or my Peruvian shaman, and they will say to you, the healing is inside. The healing comes from the inside. It is not the other person that is doing your healing. They are just a clear conduit of love that allows the healing that you need and to be transmuted and magnified so that you can heal yourself. That's what we do, right? Beautiful people out there that do Reiki and energy work, right? We are just a clear conduit, crystal clear conduit that facilitate you to heal yourself. And this is what is so beautiful about what we do. And so being a PMA allows volunteers to have more control over how they choose to give back to the community. It allows the PMA to do more for the local community and to help change lives. And so being part of a PMA is huge. And I always find it really interesting when people are like, well, why do I have to do this? Because it offers you privacy and protection. Being in a PMA offers you complicit privacy and protection over your choices. How many of you are sick and tired of the invasion of privacy by the governments, the banks? Now remember, the banks do what the governments say they have to do. Right? Now, I used to work in the bank, and do you want to know what my job was when I worked in the bank? My job was to find missing money. You heard that right. My job was to find missing money. So essentially, what would happen is somebody would fill out a document wrong, or they would put, maybe the BSB wrong, like, so they might have like everything written properly. Now, because what made my job so easy is the fact that there's a paper trail. Now, the paper trail leads somewhere. Evidence. So, of course, now you don't have physical evidence because everything's done on the computer. And the computer is all up in a cloud. And you don't have any control over that cloud. And if your money goes missing now, whereas we would be able to find it through tracing numbers and all of these things, right? But they got rid of checks which had a tracer number on the back. And on the back of that check, there was a tracer number. So I could use that tracer number to go back through to find the batch and actually find the physical evidence of what's gone wrong. Now, if there was fraud going on, there had to be physical evidence, right? So if somebody was, and here's a perfect example, because I was working at the Royal Exchange. Now, if you know what an overnight TT is, it's an international transfer for money. Now, there was an international transfer that we had from the exports department, and one of the guys that I used to catch a train with, and was my friend, worked in the exports department. So imagine my horror when part of my job was also any accounts that had over $1 million, I would have to report to Mr. Crawford. See, this is how traumatized I was by it. I can still remember all of the details. And I would have to go, and now nobody ever wanted to go up to the third floor to talk to Mr. Crawford. He was a very stern man that had this real, I don't know, I reckon he was like a Viking king or something in a past life. But that was the kind of energy that he had. And so it was really scary, because I was only young. And so I would go, I'll never forget, like I found this account that had like nearly $3 million in it all of a sudden overnight. And what had happened was, right, so TTs are only 99 million. That's the highest that they could be. Okay, so it's a bit like when you do a transfer, they only let you transfer a certain amount of money, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, cut a long story short, 0.000001 cent in every dollar. So like nothing, right? Nothing. But when we're talking about 99 million and 99 million and 99 million, that's 99 million, 99 million and 99 million of those 0.1 of a cents was going into one of the staff's accounts. So I had to do a back trace on this money because, of course, those overnight T&Ts, even though it's such a small amount, somebody on the other end was like, hang on, this isn't right. This is the money's out. And of course, this person had done it on every large overnight T&T. So this bank account had like something like $800,000, and all of a sudden overnight had nearly $3 million in it. And so I'm tracing it back, and I'm like, this is really odd. What the hell's going on here? Anyway, so I've got to find the money that's gone missing. I've got now all of the evidence in front of me. I can see that this point is going into a local bank account. Well, that doesn't make any sense because these are these are overnight like international transfers that need to go through. So all of that money should be going, other than the transfer fee, which is already paid, should be actually going overseas. So of course it didn't. It's landed in a bank account here in Australia. So I then have to backtrack on this account in Australia to find out that it's actually the guy that I know that will catch the train home. So I was like, number one, I was really upset that this person that I actually trusted and looked up to and, used to ask advice from was actually not a very good person, number one. Number two, that I had to go up to Mr. Crawford's office and tell him. And number three, just seeing how, even with all of the evidence, how easy fraud could happen. Now, fraud, of course, now to trace is not that easy, because it's all online, and there's these things called VPN that shoot saying that I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere, and scammers use them all the time. Now, on the weekend, we had money scammed from our accounts, not knowing how our accounts literally were emptied. And you contact the bank and you put a stop. Now, I put a stop on the card and I put a stop on the money exiting the bank accounts. In the last 3 days, guess what? Money has managed to leave the bank accounts. I put a stop on it. I rang the bank. I put a stop on the money. And this is what I'm trying to say to you. You're not safe in the electronic world. We have stopped using booking systems that are up in the cloud, right? Because that's people's private information. The minute it's up in the cloud, there is somebody out there that is able to see that information. That's not private anymore. So we're back to paper and pen. Now, notice that this is one of the things that the powers that be want to get rid of, is a paper and pen, because everything's electronic. Now, if everything's electronic, everything that we do as a human being becomes null and void, right? Because essentially you can program computers to do whatever you want. And a perfect example is AI. So many people trust AI. You're giving your personality to AI. You're giving away all of these things that make you human, which will essentially make you unessential. And it was really interesting, because then I've been saying this for ages, that AIs are really, really dangerous. Yes, I get it. Everybody wants to be in your face. Everybody wants to be part of a microwave society. But what happens when all of this infrastructure takes over? How many people are experiencing or have had fraud happen? Credit cards defrauded, bank accounts defrauded or broken into, even things like electricity stolen, right? All of these things happen every single day. And people can't see that it's all happening because we no longer can actually see with our own two eyes the evidence and proof. And so then they give you, oh, it's going to take us 5 to 7 days. Well, back in the day, when your money went missing out of your bank account and it was fraud and the bank could see it. Now, you got to remember, the bank's got your money insured, right? So you've reported fraud. The bank's got your money insured. They're getting paid. They're making a claim straight away. And then you may not see your money for 3 months. But they've had the proof. They've found the money. They've made their claim. And then the insurance company goes and, reaps the money back from where it came from. The reality of it is most of these frauds now are actually done by these big corporations to keep you small. So you need to start really looking at how you're doing life. And, all these people like, oh, yes, but, like I work for myself and I only take cash and, yeah, good. Good on you. But what else are you doing to protect what you have? Have you registered it with the UCC? Because you know, when you buy a car from a wrecking yard, from a car yard, that car's already come into the country and been registered to the government. So when you buy that car, you're essentially buying that car on loan from the government, because it's now registered, and the certificate, the top of the certificate for the RTA, has got the government on there. So your car is on loan to you. So you are paying money for a car that is on loan to you. That is why when you get fines and all of that's why they can come and take your car, because you don't own it. It's on loan to you. But when you do everything in the private, they can't take your car because they have no ownership. They have no certificate with their name on it. Your certificate makes you a borrower, right, of that car. Your birth certificate. Your birth certificate is worth so much money, it's ridiculous. And all these people out there that go, oh, look at all these conspiracy theorists. You know what? All these people that call everybody conspiracy theorists don't do their own research, don't go out and be their scientists. They don't go out and learn. Now, let me tell you, I'm a very, very busy woman, and I do have lots of people doing things for me. And probably because, you know, it has had to be a real lesson for me about control and not having to have control over everything. Because when I did, I was completely burnt out all of the time. The reality of it is when you decide that your life is worth having control of, you get your health back. You get your life back, you get your time back. And so having a PMA gives me all of that and the ability to go and do work out in the community, to go out into remote communities, sit with elders, to take the medicine, to learn more about medicine from this land, because this is the other thing that nobody tells you. Now, if your bloodlines are from a cold country, things like bark remedies are going to work amazing for you. They're going to be amazing. Everybody used to go on and on and on about like bark remedies to me all the time. Don't know if you realise, but I've been born in Australia, and my parents were born in Malta, and it's not like for a few generations after them that we go into the colder climates. So my results with Rescue Remedy, bark remedy, was like minute, right? Because they're grown in a cold climate. I'm not grown in a cold climate, I'm grown in a hot climate. Now, when I started using Chinese herbal medicine, I found much bigger improvement. Then I started using Ayurvedic medicines and bush flower medicine from Australia, and guess what? My body started thriving. Why? Because just like the plants, I'm grown in a warmer climate. And I know that sounds really crazy, but you have to remember, people, we are frequency. We are energetic. Okay? And this is why governments don't want you working with plants, because plants show you and guide you. Plants correct what is going on within your body because they work with your body. They don't shut anything down. They don't shut down your receptors. They open and close them and bring everything back into balance. Mycelium, right? Mushrooms are knowledge. They are so much knowledge. You have a look at clients who have had schizophrenia, personality disorders, who all of a sudden say to you, oh, everything becomes clear when they use microdosing mushrooms. People who are suffering with mental health disorders, oh, all of a sudden, like, they have the understanding and the knowledge, because instead of having this discombobulated, nervous energy that they can't understand because they're receiving, but they're not a clear conduit to receive and transmute the energy that they're receiving, which causes anxiety, depression, personality disorders, ADHD, ODD, ADD, oh my God, and so many other issues. They just disappear. The amount of parents I have who cannot believe that one tiny little gummy with a little bit of plant medicine totally allows their child a space to find breath, to be able to communicate, to become verbal, to become expressive, to be reconnected. You see, being in a PMA allows me to do that. Being in a PMA allows me to help others help themselves. Being in a PMA means that the only person I have to answer to is the members, and that my best interests are about not just what I'm currently doing, but also giving back to the members, giving back to the communities. Families are struggling. There are people who are living on the streets. What are our governments doing about it? Nothing. Nothing. They are funding wars in other countries because these countries have got the most fertile soils. They have got the richest oil supplies. Look what they have done here in Australia. They have sold out. Australia, and I said this during the great financial crisis, that Australia will be the last country to be hit because we are self-sufficient. We have iron ore, we have gold, we have silver, we have precious metals and stone, we have oil, we have vast, beautiful land, and we have vast water bodies. So what do? They sell them all off. And we as Australians are having to pay overseas companies who don't pay taxes here, right? All these overseas corporations, they don't pay taxes here, right? And this is truth. Apple, Samsung, Panasonic, all the oil companies, they're all registered overseas. And because they're registered overseas, they don't pay taxes here. They don't pay business taxes here, right? And what they do is then money goes off to places like Vanuatu or the Cayman Islands or Switzerland, where privacy belongs to the people, and so therefore they siphon all of the money. And the poor are getting poorer, and the super rich are becoming ecstatically rich, and those who are in the middle are sitting in a game of tug-of-war because there's no consistency in flow. More and more people are moving to working for themselves as they realise that the only way to have true control over your earning power and the money that you bring in is to work for yourself, right? Governments pay incentives to people who keep people in the workforce. This is where all your taxes are going, to make more of a workforce. The elites have always said, I want a factory full of workers, not a factory full of thinkers. The minute you start free thinking and really hone in on that, the more and more you will see that having a PMA, having trust set in place for all of your assets, right? Your houses and mortgages, your cars, right? Have a look what happens when you die. When you die, everything goes to probate. Why does it go to probate? Because the government want to see what you've got and who it's going to. So then they know, because even now they've realized, holy crap, like people are being, are receiving like millions and millions of dollars in, what's the word? When people are, oh my goodness, I've lost the word. What is the name for when somebody dies and your inheritance, right? So people are leaving inheritances of millions and millions of dollars. Well, inheritance has always been tax-free, right? And so it should be, because your inheritance is already being taxed by the person who left it to you. They've already paid all the taxes on your inheritance. Now, you have to pay to have anything that's left to you in inheritance. We've just watched one of our girls go through it. They all had to pay a fee to have their name put on the property that was left in an inheritance to them. Whereas if that property had been put into a trust and they were the beneficiaries, they wouldn't be paying any fees because it's automatic. They're already beneficiaries on that property, and the government can't touch it, and the government can't tax them on it because it's over $2.2 million. The government is now taxing inheritances over 2.2 million. Why? The taxes have already been paid on that inheritance by the person that was living that's now deceased. It is constantly money grabs. So do yourself a favor. If you want to work for yourself, do not set yourself up as a company or a sole trader or a business. Set yourself up as a PMA. Now, if for whatever reasons, for financial payment reasons, you need to have yourself set up as a business, then what you need to do is you need to actually speak to another one of my contacts who can actually show you how to do a hybrid model. All right. And let me tell you, my contact is not AB, right? Or should I say AR? So definitely, she's not a blonde woman who proclaims to be this amazing knower of Brit taking you into the private and having sovereignty over your life. That particular woman does everything in the public and just got taken to court for hundreds of thousands of dollars, because guess what? Everything that she sets up is wrong, and everybody that she looked after is under a microscope by government bodies. So if you have had your PMA done by this person, I recommend that you go out and you spend yourself some extra money. You've already thrown all that money away before you end up in trouble or probably behind bars, because she'll just hand over all of your information, I guarantee, to keep herself out of harm's way. That's the way the government works, right? You give us lots of fish and we'll not take any action against you. I've seen it, been a part of it, right? All dark energy. I don't care how connected to source they pretend to be. The reality of it is they're not teaching you financial freedom. They're getting financial freedom for themselves by being a vampire upon those who are at a loss and taking advantage of them. So please make sure that you really align yourself with people who really have got your best interest at heart. Definitely go and look at how you could be doing things differently. Now, even if you, for example, receive an income from an outside source, there is a way that you can do your finances and redirect that. And there is a box on your tax returns that says, this will be my last tax return. Tick that box. Right? That's right. That's called an opt-out. It is an opt-out. You can opt out of paying tax. Tax is voluntary. When you sign that piece of paper that we are programmed from the age of 14, we were programmed in commerce in high school. As soon as you're 14, you go out and you go to the post office and you apply for an ABN number. Now a tax file number. Guess what? Now it's all online and it's instant, right? Because if we make everything really quick and easy for people, more people are going to do it. And that's going to give us more access to people and more access to more money, That's what governments are about. You think that what they're giving you by all this AI and all this tech is ease? All they're doing is making it easier for them to take everything from you, to grab everything that you have and leave you with nothing, so that you have nothing but them to rely upon. So it's really, really important that you understand this. It has taken so much time for me to get my head around it all, and I'm so grateful that one of my founding members is so well versed on PMAs. My mentor and is also so very well versed on PMAs and educates for free and educates people to be a part of something that will change the world. And you have to be, somebody has to be the pebble to create the ripples. And you can choose to be a part of that in your own life. You have to choose to be the pebble in your own life. I mentor people all of the time in taking back their lives, taking back and getting rid of the anger and the frustration and the shame and the hurt and the fear that controls them. And yet the biggest perpetrator on some of these things are actually the government, because of the fear propaganda, because of the fear mongering. This is what we did not see. And now those of us who were the black sheep, who could see things differently because for whatever reason, that was our job. We came, when we came here and we chose this soul journey, it was to be the message bringers. It was to be able to spread the word about truth. Reality is that we are all frequency. I am you, you are me. Nothing is singular or separate. What I choose to do in my life, somewhere along the line, impacts your life. Now, not everything that I do is going to be impactful on your life. It's not going to personally impact you, but the choices I make, like choosing not to wear a mask, choosing not to get a vaccine, choosing not to allow chemotherapy or radiation or poisons into my body unless they are 100% needed. All of those things, me making those choices allows space for other people to make those choices too. And for every person that stood up and made choices when so many people were trapped in the fear, have now opened up the ability for people to take action against these heinous people that actually think that they're human, that lied through their teeth, saying that they had our best interests at heart. So ask yourself, what do I want for the future generations? What do I want for my wider community? Do you want to walk around your town and see that there aren't any homeless, that children are safe? They are selling off houses. There are so many houses that are sitting empty, owned by conglomerates overseas. Why? Why? To create more financial pain. So please be really aware why having control of yourself, not others, but yourself, and the world that you live in is your responsibility. It's not mine. It's yours. It's your world. You don't like seeing the homeless? Do something about it. Do your bit so that there are less homeless. There are more kids and families out on the streets than ever before, and yet we supposedly have more wealth, because that's why they're taxing us more. That's why they're giving us bigger interest rates, right? Because no one's suffering, everybody's got more money. No, they don't. When you sit down and you work on percentages, the percentage of people that are suffering are so much higher than the percentage of people who are doing well. And if you want to take control back of that, you need to really look at private members associations. You need to look at the people that you interact with, that you do business with, that you have energy exchange with. You need to make sure that you've got trusts in place. You need to make sure that you have got everything registered to you, that the people that you want to benefit from the work that you have done in life are your beneficiaries, so that they don't have to pay to have everything put into their names, because they're a beneficiary. It's automatic. Everything is about money for the government and the people behind those governments. Our governments are no longer public servants. Police are no longer public servants. That's why they think they can get away with doing the things that they do. But the reality of it is, you can take a police officer personally to court. You don't have to take the police department. You can take the police department, but you can take that police officer as a person to court, because what they did to you as a lone single person, whether it is under the guise of being a police officer or not. Right? I literally watched a video where a woman was made to empty out her bag. Now I believe she had a little bit of a tiny little bag of personal marijuana in there, which, mind you, is totally legal in Canberra. Therefore, that's a territory of Australia. Therefore, under Commonwealth law, it is actually legal all around Australia. So all this bullshit about, oh, we're passing laws for this and we're passing laws. Yeah, because people like me are pointing out that what happens in one place in Australia goes for the whole of this land and territory. It's why people like me voted no, not yes. Because you take the land off the Aboriginals, they are the true guardians, right? All of these corporations, they're corporations. Right, I actually saw on the weekend we did a festival, and I noticed it was an Aboriginal word, and they had the word corporation after it. In other words, it's programming. It's not real what you're seeing. It's not really an Aboriginal mob that you're buying from. It's a corporation. Darkinjung is actually an Aboriginal corporation. It's got nothing to do with the real Aboriginal elders and they are the richest land council. They are a land council. They are governmental. And we are all believing from the government that it's us against the Aboriginals. It's not us against the Aboriginals. It's the government that are creating separation, people. They do it in every fucking country, right? It's us against them, and that's not the way it should be. So if you really want to start taking control of your life, have a look into private members associations, become part of a private members association so that you can learn more, that you can have more freedoms over what you do, how you heal yourself, the way that you choose to actually care and honor your body. Because I'm telling you now, the medical fraternity do not give a flying pig's ass about your well-being. So do your own